Welcome back to part 2. I was working on this Japanese white pine tree. We've been calling it the Beaver pine. It's been here at work for quite some time, and if you'd seen part 1 you would have seen that it had an area of carving on the side of the tree that was really blocky and wasn't particularly good. In the first part of this series we addressed the front of the tree and we've addressed the carving, and part 1 I finished with it half carved. So we've carved from this lower section up to here. We've now done all the carving up to the top into here. We've burnt some of the wood with another carving tool, and I didn't want to lime sulphur it, make it too white, so we've just applied the first one coat of wood hardener. You can see here we're just painting the wood hardener on the tree just to help preserve the wood for future years. So the front of the tree we decided was going to be in here, because if we had a front round here, this is okay as an apex, as a front of a tree, but you lose the deadwood. And it's quite a big feature of this tree, and now we've spent the time carving it and enhancing it, we want to show it off a bit. So we're going to have a front at this marker here towards you there, so that we see this deadwood on the right hand side of the tree. So today's session, we're going to finish the tree off. We're going to do the actual work on the branches and to shape the tree. In the first section we said that this part of the tree here was quite long and growing out quite a lot, and we're going to keep the tree the same sort of angle. We're not going to repot it at this time of year, and this is coming out too much, and because of a tree that's been ravaged by nature with a lot of deadwood and carving, I don't want this top to look too full and too lush. So I was thinking of reducing this section back, because we've got a really nice branch here which I think we could make a new top of the tree. I want to reduce the volume and the mass of this tree by probably about 50%, so that it doesn't overbalance the deadwood and the trunk. So that's the next procedure, if you like. For the front towards you, we'll be able to bring this branch down and wire these branches down to fill in. This is all sensible. I say we're going to try and come up here, make a top out of this. So I need to take this section off. So that's the next job to do. So it seemed a little bit drastic to start with, but you'll have to bear with me. So I'm going to take off this down into here. Remove that section to start with, maybe a little bit further back. Get rid of these little branches that we don't need. So once we've cut that back into there, that's lightened it up a little bit considerably, and then have a look at these other branches and see which we need. And I'm going to try and keep finer, more delicate branches and get rid of some of the thicker, lumpier branches. So this time of year, we're sort of midsummer in the UK. There's some old needles which are going to fall out this autumn, so we can help them along the way by just pinching out some of the old needles and pulling out some of these needles that are growing quite strongly downward. This branch in here is a bit heavy, we don't need that, so I'm going to take that back into here. Trim it back with a large concave pruner. This section into here. Let's see what we've got. In fact, this whole section here, can you see we took off that heavy section we didn't want, but what it's left us now, this is quite usable, but it's still coming off this big heavy lump in here. But structurally, yeah, looking at the rest of the tree at this area, this is still quite offensive. It's too thick, too heavy, and this is only going to be a problem in future. I think we're better off getting rid of that altogether, getting rid of this heaviness, and then we'll be keeping this finer, thinner growth that'll be more in keeping. So we don't really need this. I'm gonna make something out of this instead. So I'm gonna take that back further. We'll take it right back into there. You might miss it now, but you won't miss it once we're done. So this section here on the right hand side is a little bit of a nuisance. We've got a lot of growth here the front's going to be in here towards me, and if you look at the structure of the branches, the structure of the tree, what we've got a branch coming out here splitting into 2, and then this one here splits into a further 3. This one here is a bit awkward. It's got a bad bend in it here as it doglegs back up and into here. This one's coming out quite close to this one. I want to reduce this whole lot back. I've basically got too much foliage here. So the question is, which ones of these do we need and which don't we need? And I would suggest on this is going to be the top of the tree here. This one here that's growing up is a little bit awkward. So I think in this case, we can get rid of that branch there, and we can go in with a larger concave pruner and trim that back neater. And then you see these 2 growing here. This one's got this amount of growth coming off it. This one's got this amount of growth. This branch here has got a broader spread at this point, and it's better quality branch than this. So I'm going to get rid of that also. So this here, we've now got a nice bit of thin growth here. We can bring this down to make the top. We can bring this down to the right, and then this branch is going to come down and round like this. So this is the sort of thing that I can see in my mind's eye when I'm planning this tree now. All I need to do is to put wire on to facilitate me getting this sort of arrangement. So this is what I'm looking at tree wise, and obviously if I let it go, then that's what we've currently got. But I know that I can get this down and into here, that's not a problem. We've got a little shoot there we don't need, we can trim back, so that's okay. And then let's have a look further round at this branch here, and this one here is a bit thick and heavy, so we're going to chase that back to there, and we'll keep this one as a continuation. As we get further around the tree, we'll do the same with this. We can finish this branch here, trim that length off. So we've sorted that side out. I'm fairly comfortable with where these are going. And then on this side, again, a little bit of length off some of these branches in here. This is a little bit long. We can shorten that back, leaving us this section here. And we can take that tip out. You can see some of these needles are just starting to fall now. So before we do any wiring, we need to work our way through the tree, and we'll just ease those out. You can see they're going a bit more yellow, look. And these will be falling off in the next few months here anyway. So we're just preemptively removing them so that we've just got the nice green needles left. And it makes it easier and cleaner, looks better, and it's easier and cleaner to then wire this branch without the old needles getting in the way. We can remove them, make it look a bit more organised. So then this one here, this is growing up a little bit too much. This growth here is too long. This is growing down too much. And then I'll just go through and just remove the old needles from this section also. You see already, just by cutting those few sections off, we've got a better balance of foliage against the trunk and against the visual weight of the tree. This was all just too full, we had too much. So I'm just going to spend a bit of time taking these old needles off, and then we'll come back and we'll start to wire and shape the tree. We spent some time just stripping the old needles off this pine of the branches that we've decided to keep. So I'll just turn it around so you can have a look at what we've got left. So we've got a much better balance between foliage and trunk now. So the next stage is to get some wire on these branches so that we can manipulate these and get them brought down to where we need them to be. So we'll start off getting some wire on these main branches and then work down to the secondary branches and the little twigs and then get it into place. So we'll start off with these main ones, a bit of 4mm wire, and we'll just start it around these. It should allow us to shape manipulate these branches and bringing it along. Use some wire scissors sometimes to manipulate the end of the wire to make it a little bit easier. And then this section here of wire is going to come up. I'm going to do this branch here at the back, this one in here. So this is just coming round along here between the twigs, and then just trim off any excess length when we get to the end there. And then another piece of that is going to do this back section to allow us to bring this piece here down, and again just going between the twigs, about a 45-degree angle, not too tight, not too loose, and just twist that end over, make it nice and neat. And then back up to this section here. Run it along this branch. Always work with the heaviest branches and start with the thickest wire, and then I tend to work down through the wire, getting down to the finer stuff. I'm sort of kind of wiring back to front now because I normally wire towards myself, and I'm kind of wiring it a little bit different so you can see what I'm doing. And then we'll bring a wire off here, and this wire is the one that's going to go up to the top of the tree. Bring it up like this and down onto this lower branch here. So working our way through the tree, we've done all the most of the heavy wiring, and now I'm down to sort of 1 mil, 1.5 mil wiring just on these tertiary branches. And the way I try to address little starting on a tree like this, get the heavy wire on, then the medium, then the fine stuff. Generally I don't position branches as I'm going because you tend to just move them out of the way with other branches. So what I'm doing is just doing the technical side of it basically, which is applying the wire. And then once we've got the wire applied, we can do the slightly more interesting sort of styling, the artistic side of it, which is obviously is the positioning of the branches to the desired position we need them to be in. But hopefully with a bit of wire on here, we've probably spent 10 minutes off camera just popping a little bit of wire on these branches. So we're nearly done. We've got this top section to do, a little branch over here towards me to do. So I'm just pairing off these little twigs just to make it more sensible, just to try and get some coverage of wire so that we can then go to the next stage and get them into position. So it doesn't take too long, just work your way through them, doing it nice and neat, trying to avoid any crossing wire, moving the foliage and the needles out of the way. It makes it quite a bit easier that obviously we did remove those old needles prior to this. It speeds the job up and makes life a bit easier. So I've finished the wiring, but I haven't shaped the branches yet. Before we do that, we'll put some wound sealant onto these cuts that we made. They were quite large branches that we took off. So we're going to put some lac balsam wound sealant onto those cuts. Obviously that's mainly done to cosmetically hide them, just to promote healing and seal those cuts like that. So they're a lot less noticeable with a bit of wound sealant applied. Another little one here. So get those done like that. And then the next thing is to shape the branches. So we've got most of the wire on the tree now. So let's have a look, come around this side and see what we can do. So front of the tree towards here, so we can see the dead wood. And we need to bring this branch down like this. And these are quite thin, so we can manipulate them by hand. So I'm trying to bring this section here down, sweeping down here, and then get these tertiary branches into position. Turn this round like this, turn this little tip up here, little one here. Always trying to get these foliage pads looking neat. Some of these needles growing down can be moved. this one here, we've got a bit of a gap here, so this little section we can bring into here, and then this section here, I'm going to place those two just there, take that off, take these needles off that are going down, and just get that into here, and then this one here can drop to fill in over there, and we'll just carry on working away around the tree. This branch here we can manipulate down and into here a little bit, and again then just work on building up the foliage pad, making that look neat and sensible like this. Around the back of the tree now, this section here wants to come down and twist. Let's move this out of the way, and then this main branch wants to be like this, and then we can face these up like so. There's the odd little one where I've not put any wire on these, but they're sitting in there quite neatly at the back of the tree anyway. There's a little sprout underneath we don't need, so we can take that off. So they sit okay like this. And then this one here, we'll bring it around, so this will grow around the deadwood just to diffuse that section in future. And back up to this section here, bring it like this. And let's have another look around the front of the tree. So this is going to come down into here. Still a few old needles appearing on this, we can take those out. This is going to drop down to fill this space. And then the top of the tree here, this was the one that was a little bit long, so I want to take it up a little bit and back, and then this section from here onwards to the left wants to go back and twist like this, and then drop it down into here like that. So once that's done, we're going to make an apex mow in here, the crown of the tree, bring these down, this one into here, and then this section here is bare, so this is going to come round and just start to fill in like this and like this. That's going to fill in just here. This one can raise up a little bit. Just trying to get these in the right position between this section and this lower section. Open this up a little bit. Bring this round, and then as we manipulate these, some of these needles that are facing down, we can just pluck those out a little bit. That one's got a few damaged needles on it, so they can be removed. This section here is a bit long. So then this wants to be here a little bit more. Over to the right, and then this one here is coming out quite horizontal, so we're going to sweep that down quite a bit. It's going to give us some foliage down here at this sort of point on the tree, and then this one here is about the only one we haven't done. We've swept this one down. This is still coming out dead straight, so this wants some downward movement and a bit of wiggle put into it to coax that into this position here, and just arrange the florets and new growth to get a nice looking foliage pad. A little bit too dense at the tip. You can just trim that tip off back to that other bud. Little side section here, and a little branch here in the back that just want to be brought into here. And some of these needles that are on the underside of the branch, spend a little bit of time Just taking a few of those out. So though I haven't shown you the full wiring of this from start to finish because it's quite laborious, we've probably done about from start to finish we've probably done about 40 minutes of wiring on this tree, and we've probably shown you 10 minutes of it or so, but we've shown you the shaping of it in the entirety, because that's the important thing after all, is the shape. So I'm just going to have a brief break. I'm just going to tidy up this base. There's a few mosses here and a few weeds that we don't need, so we're going to keep this lichen and the moss, strip all these weeds off, tidy it up. I'll just have a look at it from a distance against the plain background, see if there's any bits I need to just tweak, and we'll come back and do a final reveal for you. So with all the wire on the branches and twigs on this pine, we've now managed to shape and position all the branches. The new front is marked here, so we chose this front, don't forget, so that we can see a lot of this deadwood that was on the tree. Now we've enhanced it and recarved it. You know, before that, the tree would have been a much larger tree that had all died off, and it just had insufficient carving of poor quality down this right hand side. So it's got another, you know, the potentially more natural front of this tree is in here with the apex. But the trouble is with this as a front, as we said before, is that this is very straight and wide and broad. But also you don't see the deadwood. So we've come round here as a front, in between here and here. So we get the best of both worlds here. We get some of the beautiful old bark of the tree with the lichen growing up it, yeah, but we also get this deadwood feature on the right hand side. We took quite a bit off this tree. These are the branches that came off, particularly this top section which was coming out up here. So in this session we've probably put 50% of this tree away. We just didn't want all this weight of foliage on a tree of this sort of character. It's not been repotted at this time of year. We'll probably wait now and repot this tree next spring. So it's new front in here, better balance of branches and positioned all the twigs, remove the old needles, and then we'll repot it and it will stay in this pot again for probably another 3 to 4 years. I hope you've enjoyed watching this series on this tree. Like we said in part 1, it's a tree that's been on the nursery for quite some time, and we've been itching to sort of have a go and sort of move it on and do some enhancement carving to it to just bring it on from what it was initially. And there was always a nice tree with a lot of character, an old tree. It was always lurking in there. It just needed that procedure doing just to bring it back out to the viewer. Hope you've enjoyed this little series on pines, and if you have, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any more upcoming videos. Thank you very much.